A message from the human resistance.
Here's Ariane Detail with what you need to know.
At the center of the recent conversation on immigration is Springfield, Ohio, where high-profile Republicans, including former President Donald Trump, have shared unfounded claims about the Haitian immigrant population.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
Our sources, including law enforcement, Park Service staff, and local officials in Springfield, say there's no evidence this is happening.
The city of Springfield is gaining national and political attention after social media posts accusing Haitian immigrants of crimes went viral, despite Springfield police confirming there are no credible reports of those claims.
And tonight, when talking about immigration, this is where our first fact check starts. Former President Trump talked about cats. He meant to talk about geese in Springfield, Ohio. There is a viral video suggesting that Haitian immigrants there are, and I'll bring this up on the screen so everyone can see it, eating cats, eating dogs. We rate this on the CBS Confirmed team as false. We have checked with the local authorities in the county, Springfield, Ohio. They have no credible claims, no evidence, no suggestion that Haitian immigrants have harmed in any way, shape, or form, let alone eaten dogs or cats. Especially not cats, because the allegation was originally geese. Former President Trump not only misspoke about that, but we rate this with the CBS Confirmed team as false.
Clark County Communications.
Oh, yes, ma'am. I got a question. This is a non-emergency line, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I'm sitting here. I'm riding on the trail going to my orientation for my job today, and I see a group of Haitian people. There was about 4 of them. They all had geese in their hand. They got away. I couldn't make out the first 3 of the license plate, but I got the numbers.
This shit ain't no joke. It's not funny. I really do not feel fucking safe here, bro. Like, everyone on TikTok, on Facebook, making these jokes thinking everything's fucking funny. Like, imagine you being homeless for a whole fucking year for no fucking reason. Like, what the fuck? This shit is not fun. This shit is not cool, bro. They really out here decapitating animals and y'all are making jokes out of it. Imagine if you went outside and you saw your dog's head decapitated on the fucking ground. Like, why are y'all thinking this shit's a joke? It's not a joke. I don't feel comfortable walking anywhere. Like, what the fuck? I should be able to feel safe in my own city. Everybody's fucking homeless out here. Ain't shit but fucking scary ass Haitians is lurking and creeping and shit. Y'all thinking this shit's motherfucking funny? Like, keep making this shit up. It's not made up, bro. This shit is real life. This shit is really affecting me. Like, what the fuck?
There's been a lot of allegations of animals going missing. You know, ducks being basically
yes, sir.
Taken.
There's pictures of that too.
Can you speak on that? Have you ever seen that in person?
I've seen, the only thing I've seen, I did see a pig's head laying down in Snyder Park.
You saw a pig's head?
A pig's head.
Like it had been cut off? Or?
Yes, sir.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
That's, you don't really see that every day, do you?
No, you don't. It's kind of surprising.
Wow.
But then our city wants to pass it off as cult stuff.
As cult stuff?
Yeah.
Do you think that has anything to do with, you know, like the connections with voodoo that Haitians commonly have? I mean, in Haiti,
well,
it's a very commonly practiced thing.
I'm sorry. There's actually been a couple people that I know that have been told that they were going to be cursed by voodoo.
By Haitians?
By Haitians.
So that actually is a real thing
them
here?
Yes.
And them practicing voodoo with animals,
yes.
Pig's head?
Yeah.
Wow, okay. That's, you don't hear that every day. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's that salacious story of immigrants and pets that has vaulted the issue of immigration to the top of the headlines. But here in Springfield, I talked to a number of people who say, despite the city denying it, they believe the story.
Welder Matthew Ball says he was surprised to hear Springfield, Ohio mentioned so many times during Tuesday's presidential debate. The salacious story mentioned during the debate,
they're eating the dogs, the people that came in, they're eating the cats,
is something Ball says he believes.
That's why you have them going to Snyder Park and chopping off ducks' heads in front of little kids and stuff.
The story persists despite the denials of city leaders.
We have not been able to verify any credible reports or specific claims of pets being harmed.
Wednesday, the city manager releasing a statement on Facebook calling the stories rumors.
It is disappointing that some of the narrative surrounding our city has been skewed by misinformation circulating on social media.
You really think that happened? I mean, the city says they don't have evidence that it happened.
Yes, I've seen pictures. Yeah, I've seen, especially social media and where I've worked, supervisors like, hey, look at this.
Brittany Graham is the same way. She believes it because she saw it on social media.
You think that stuff that you're seeing on social media is true and actually happening?
Yeah, there's been like pictures of people walking off with ducks, so I tend to believe it. I haven't seen anything myself, really.
I see a group of Haitian people. There was about 4 of them. They all had geese in their hand.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
The global cabal's propaganda machine is working overtime as usual to maintain control over the perception of reality for the average American voter. Continuously using the term false claims, which is improper English and until Trump entered politics unacceptable journalistic standards, they have been subtly brainwashing the public to accept the new standards imposed upon them by the transhumanists. Specifically regarding Trump's claims about Haitian migrants eating pets and local animals in Springfield, Ohio, he was only slightly inaccurate. He did likely see video of a woman in Canton, Ohio, barely 100 miles from Springfield, who had been arrested in the middle of killing and eating a cat. Body cam footage shows witnesses claim at the scene that she was eating the cat and had killed cats. She does appear to possibly be of Haitian origin, and although the woman in question is a U.S. citizen born in America, no one has disclosed if she is related to Haitians in the area, or were having interactions with them. The cat killing would be consistent with known voodoo practices common throughout Haiti. Despite what the liberal media claims, there was a cat killing and eating in question, despite not being done by a Haitian asylum seeker, not far from Springfield, that still shows signs of being paranormal. Regardless, witnesses have claimed to see Haitians with wild birds like geese, and there seems to be claims to the deaths of pets and other animals that contradict claims made by the city of Springfield.
Now back to our other top story. Last night, President Trump doubled down on claims that Haitian immigrants are eating pets in Springfield, Ohio. Our verified team confirmed with the Springfield mayor that these claims are false. We will talk more on this in just a moment.
But first, here's the thing. The claims stem from a case in Canton where a woman was recently arrested and charged with eating a cat.
What did you do?
August 16th, Canton police responded to disturbing 911 calls.
She killed the cat and is eating it.
Multiple people reported 27-year-old Alexis Farrell was eating a cat on the 1100 block of 13th Street Southeast in Canton.
Stand up.
Officers on scene placed Farrell in handcuffs as a crowd of onlookers watched.
Put your hands behind your back. Someone got rubber gloves. She's covered in blood.
Police believe she killed the cat before eating it. One writing they saw blood on Alexis's feet, hands, and fur on her lips.
But the people around here knew her. They like, Alexis, get up. Like, what is you doing? Like, da-da-da-da. Like, they know for sure that wasn't her right mind.
Did you guys see all this?
No, we pulled up and she was just laying there with me.
Did you see her eating it? She was eating it?
Yeah. She said, but it's blood on her shoes. She said she stumped it out.
Yeah. Well, you don't kill a cat and go to the hospital. You go to jail.
Southwest with CM 410-221.
No, she was saying that she killed 2 other kids. That's what she was saying. Yes.
Copy out at 10th and Duber with CM 410-221. 2259 hours.
You guys never seen her recording?
No.
202.
I've seen her over there, but
202.
I don't know like exactly.
You call the Humane Society, see if they'll come pick this cat up. It's deceased.
Listen, I am not Haitian, but I am from
the Caribbean. The Haitian immigrants are indeed eating animals. Let me tell you something about these people. Not only are they harvesting cats for food, but also for witchcraft purposes, voodoo purposes. The fact that they are here illegally, Kamala did say she gave them a temporary protection, over 100,000 of them. But here's the thing, for good luck purposes, they will harvest cats, they will use the blood and the bone of these cats. They consume these things because they believe it brings good luck and good juju. This is not a joke, it's a fact. This is their culture.
My father immigrated from Haiti to the United States in the late 60s as a teenager, and I want to talk about these recent comments about the Haitians in Springfield, Ohio. First, I want to say my father and I are now estranged, but I did know him in my very, very young years, and when he immigrated, he was one person, and they weren't sending, thousands of Haitians in one area. He wasn't eating people's pets, and he didn't practice voodoo, but he did say that most of the island, the majority of the island, does practice voodoo. The reason they eat cats is for two reasons. Number one is survival. This is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. You can't just go to a food bank like you can here, or just go to McDonald's and get some free or cheap food, unless of course there's a Christian missionary there. People in the United States have a really hard time imagining that type of thing, but it is true. Second, they do animal sacrifices for their religion, voodoo. They make these animal sacrifices to these gods for different reasons. You can do your own research on this. Do I think voodoo is a demonic religion? Yes, I do. That doesn't mean that you hate these people. These people need prayer. But you can't just take over all these people from another country and expect it to work. Not to mention, it doesn't fix the problems of that country. And there's more people left in Haiti that we can bring over. It's not racist to acknowledge that this is a problem.
If you wanted to learn the secrets of a certain secret society, you had to do dreadful things which I cannot repeat here. They went into a graveyard, and from there they removed the hand of a corpse, dead 2 days, and they brought it and they challenged me to cook it and eat it. I did so. And these were the peoples who first told me about a race of highly intelligent beings which they called the Chitauri, the talkers, a race of creatures which look like reptiles, who have ruled the world for hundreds, if not thousands of years.
This is not a new issue. What most people don't understand is that the upsurge in violence and crime over the last 8 years has entirely revolved around the standoff between the political camps in America. The forces that control the Democrats found themselves no longer in control of the entire political system, and ever since more and more are literally radicalizing in the form of self-destructive drones, a near-hypnotic state similar to the state of Alexis Farrell at her arrest. Those that are surrendering to the transhumanist forces from the outside are being hacked and typically experience behavioral shifts towards violence and crime. They are all being compelled by a literal technological force that is guaranteeing that they become violent. Populations under the grip of certain religions are more prone to this phenomena than others, such as Islam and the voodoo practitioners. This is not petty or cruel bigotry. All of the radical Islamic terror attacks, especially the individual stabbing and decapitation attacks, are all what could be considered zombie attacks. Yet so have been all of the mass shootings by radical lone wolves, They are subconscious subverters, sleeper drones being cooked up slowly. These people have been reprogrammed to dwell on violence until they commit, and rarely sober to the influence, disregarding dangers to themselves to inflict damage on others. The global cabal is bringing in as many people from these nations as they can in order to drive up the availability of these zombies, so they can be used as a mob in the place of an army. They run constant cover against any resistance to their efforts, treating the U.S. border migrant flow as if it is a new underground railroad, refusing to acknowledge its existence under the justification that it is just, but in this case it was never feasible or about helping refugees, and instead was about changing the demographics in North America while the cabal still has control. Now let's take a quick look at what was going on in Springfield and the Midwest region with regards to the migrant issue.
Congressman Mike Turner visited Springfield today to address the need for federal relief for the city's growing number of Haitian migrants, as well as the lack of resources to deal with that surge. 2 News reporter Kajasia Hawkins is asking questions about how to solve this growing concern.
Some city leaders calling the influx of nearly 10,000 Haitian migrants to Springfield a burden on resources, saying that the increase in population is not sustainable.
Because we could have an unbelievable crisis here, but we don't because the result of these individuals, their leadership and Mayor Roux's leadership.
Urgent requests regarding the increase of Haitian immigrants from Springfield Mayor Rob Roux are now getting federal attention. Congressman Mike Turner visiting Wednesday to offer support and new solutions.
To be able to backfill what is a result of numbers that they're saying that are not sustainable.
Dozens of protesters gathered outside Springfield City Hall to voice their concerns about how leaders are handling a growing population.
More residents shared their thoughts during public comment, some airing frustrations, while others called for more support for everyone who calls Springfield home. 2 News reporter Evan Bales was there for tonight's meeting. He's live outside Springfield City Hall. Evan, you've been following these conversations between city leaders and residents as they address the impact of immigration. What are people calling for now?
Yes, when I arrived outside of Springfield City Hall before that meeting, people were standing outside with American flags and signs calling for Springfield City Mayor Rob Roux to resign over mismanagement of city resources, and especially with how the city is handling that influx of immigrants. Now, I spoke with some of the protesters and also some members of the Haitian community here in Springfield about how the city could be doing better.
You know, it's overwhelming for our rescue people, you know, the hospitals, the schools, everything.
Citizens of Springfield arrived at City Hall before its regularly scheduled meeting to protest what they're calling a mismanagement of the city's resources. Despite the city's request for federal aid, some residents say there needs to be more change. Protesters sported signs and American flags that they brought into the meeting. Some were upset with Springfield Mayor Rob Roux and called for his resignation during the council meeting.
Noel? Thank you. I live at 426 Northwestern Avenue. Miss Skinner, who I'm not trying to put on the spot, is my neighbor.
Just talk to me, ma'am. Thank you so much.
And I'm done with what I'm seeing. It is so unsafe in my neighborhood anymore. I have the homeless that were trying to camp out, and I have made concessions with them, and I try to help them the best I can to keep them from trying to squat on my property. But it is so unsafe. I have men that cannot speak English in my front yard screaming at me, throwing mattresses in my front yard, throwing trash in my front yard. And I can't. Look at me, I weigh 95 pounds. I couldn't defend myself if I had to. My husband is elderly, and last night, after living in this home for 45 years, he said, Noel, guess what? It's time to pack up and move. He said, we can't do this anymore. He said, it's killing both of us mentally.
Yeah, there has been an uptick in accidents. And look, I have always found that when you talk to people in a community, you can get a pretty good picture of what's going on. And there's clearly some erratic driving that is going on beyond the norm that we would expect to see. And this should not surprise us. Again, as I said, many of these drivers probably never drove in Haiti. If they did drive in Haiti, the norm and the expectation is fundamentally different than it is here. They don't have really familiarity with our laws. And so one of the things that we have worked very, very hard on but we know we have a lot more to do, and the local community is too, is when someone takes the test, and what we're seeing is the failure of the failure rate is, I believe, about 17% pass rate. That is a very, very low pass rate if you look at what we have normally throughout the state of Ohio. And so what we are seeing is people who are not familiar with driving, not familiar with English, and they're getting in the cars and they're failing the test time after time. But we have a situation in Ohio which is not just a problem for immigrants. I think it's a safety problem. We say that when someone is 18 years of age, they do not have to have any driver's education. And so what we're seeing from our BMV and what I'm told is you have someone who fails the test and then they just keep coming back. And there's nothing to stop them from coming back day after day after day after day, and finally they pass the test.
Norman says he wants to put the rumors about Haitian immigrants having a different or easier process to get a license to rest.
There is no shortcut to driver's licensing. There is no way around the training and testing requirements. We've certainly seen those claims that, hey, Haitians do not have to test, Haitians don't have to provide documentation. None of those things are true.
Well, Converse tells me that because of the Ohio Traffic Safety Office's work to bring driver education to the immigrants in Springfield, there is now a statewide program to help non-English speakers learn safe driving practices. Colleen?
As well. And my question is, if they're being bused in here, brought in here by vans, how come the city knows nothing about it?
We don't know anything about that, Ms. Eason. That's just, we've seen this stuff on Facebook and social media just like you have. We have no knowledge of that.
Why haven't you reached out to find out?
Ms. Eason, with all due respect, you can. Have you, I'm gonna ask this, and with all due respect, has anybody seen anybody being busted here? Has anybody seen any bus coming here dropping people off?
I have someone that told me that.
I know, but it's hearsay. But that's the thing. People are posting stuff on social media and people are saying things that they don't know anything about. Yeah. Nobody has seen any of those things happen.
I realize
that. No crime has been committed. There has been no reason.
But I also went by where they're living, some of them. And they're just sitting around outside, they're not working.
But what's wrong with that though, Ms. Deason? What's wrong with them sitting outside where they're paying rent?
In the middle of the day, they would be working if they came here to work.
But we can go anywhere, Ms. Deason, and see people sitting on their porch not working.
They supposedly came here to work.
I worked night shifts for a while, I mean, you never know where they're working or what hours they're working.
And I wasn't gonna comment on this, but I am now, because I feel like I need to. I want to welcome anybody to Silicotta that wants to come to Silicotta. Anybody that's here that's paying lodging, buying gas, buying food, paying rent, utilities, whatever, we want to welcome them here. Because if you're here spending money, whether you're working or even if you're not working, you have to be here spending money. So on behalf of Tiffany, Councilmember Nix, I want to welcome you, because if you're here stimulating our economy, thank you. That's how I feel about it. And if people aren't breaking the law, they're not causing any problems, I don't see what the issue is. And that's just how I feel. I can only say how I feel.
I have to say the Advocacy Council of the Drug Solutions entirely unacceptable. Do we know where the individuals we're discussing are coming from? Where their point of origin? Because you're treating them like lawful U.S. citizens, which they are not.
Okay, so I'm gonna cut it off because we've had 3 people come up. I'm gonna cut it off because we have no reason, again, we have no reason to launch an investigation or to treat people differently because of how they look. There's no reason for it.
Who said that?
Well, that's just what I'm saying. I just said that.
For those of you who have not yet realized, there is an active agenda driven by foreign interests to siege and dissolve the current population demographics in North America and Europe. Those who drive it the most are programmed and compelled to see it as making sense, yet it likely only makes sense to them, as modern actions that would never have been considered acceptable or safe have been introduced and passed off as reasonable. It is not actually legal or lawful, and is a systemic violation of federal law by the Biden administration, who full well know what they are doing, while they smile and lie to the American public. This is all part of a near-decade-long disinformation campaign led by global cabal-run media organizations to destroy their uncontrolled opposition as much as possible outside of the actual use of force. As we have seen since 2020, they have limits on that and will resort to force when desperate. The left-wing media used its implicit trust that it achieved in America and abused it to defraud millions of voters by totally lying and manufacturing constant propaganda that was never based in reality. With deeper investigation, for instance, the public will find out that many of the books published in the last decade that told stories of bad things Trump did were not written normally, but just exist, and were made and sent to manufacturing by an unknown party, and the Democrats have been running with every bit that was dropped in front of them without question, fulfilling their part of the operation. Looking back at the various headlines involving Donald Trump over the last 8 years, they are most certainly over-the-top smear and propaganda to maintain the cabal's grip on the unsuspecting voting population. When Donald Trump denies the allegations against him, he is not lying. It is the liberal media that lied for years to avoid democracy, and are now committed to those lies.
Using vulgar language, President Trump today questioned why the United States would allow people from Haiti and Africa into the country, describing those places using an expletive while suggesting people from Norway might be more acceptable. He reportedly made the comments during a White House meeting with a bipartisan group of senators. The White House tonight is not denying the president made the remarks. And we want you to know our report includes that expletive once so that you can hear the complete quote for yourself. And of course, it may not be appropriate for some of our younger viewers. NBC's Peter Alexander has details.
The president tonight apparently uncorking another astonishing statement, complaining to lawmakers in the Oval Office about protections for immigrants. Why do we want these people from, quote, all these shithole countries here?
Note how they claimed they would play the quote insinuating it would be a recording, but then had it read by someone else. In all of these cases, there never was any physical evidence that the liberal media's claims were real. All were carefully manufactured to keep media jammed with anti-Trump conditioning 24/7.
According to a Democratic aide familiar with the conversation, Mr. Trump was referring to African nations and Haiti.
Repetition. Repetition is a propaganda technique that involves saying the same message multiple times until it is taken to be the truth. Like a catchy jingle that gets stuck in your head, repetition makes a claim, idea, or slogan more familiar and therefore more believable. The more we hear something, the more likely we are to accept it as true, thanks to a psychological phenomenon known as the illusory truth effect. It works because our brains misconstrue familiarity for truth. Repetitive messages can bypass critical thinking, making them a simple yet highly effective tool for shaping thought patterns and public opinion.
All state that this is a manufactured crisis and a crisis that manufactured by the Trump administration.
This is a manufactured crisis, Bill.
How he manufactures crises like immigrants seeking legal refuge.
What the president is doing is manufacturing a crisis.
President Trump must stop holding the American people hostage, must stop manufacturing a crisis.
This president just used the backdrop of the Oval Office to manufacture a crisis.
In a new piece, a journalist at The Atlantic claimed the president repeatedly disparaged the intelligence of service members, calling fallen military personnel, quote, losers for getting killed. Trump has denied making those remarks, calling it a disgraceful situation.
The advice columnist and author E. Jean Carroll testified today at her civil trial involving her lawsuit against Donald Trump. Now, she accuses Donald Trump of raping her in a fitting room at a Manhattan department store back in the 1990s. And she says when she came forward with this allegation in 2019 that Donald Trump defamed her and ruined her reputation by denying the allegation and making comments about her appearance.
And I have to tell you, when General John Kelly told me the story of Trump's praise for Hitler, here's John Kelly. He's a retired Marine general, served in the military for more than 4 decades, is a Gold Star father. He lost his son in combat in Afghanistan. And he told me he would sit across from the president at the time, praising Hitler, praising Hitler's generals for being loyal to him, and he would be flabbergasted that he has to remind Trump, the president of the United States, what Hitler did. I mean, Kelly said to me, he said, I can't believe he forgot the Holocaust.
And speaking of the former president, he returned to the campaign trail over the weekend and, while doing so, offered some praise for one of the most notorious fictional characters of all time. At a rally in Wildwood, New Jersey on Saturday, Trump likened migrants entering the country to Hannibal Lecter, the fictional character from the Silence of the Lambs book and movie. It's a comparison he's been making over the past year, but unlike previous occasions, Trump lauded the serial killer, a cannibal, mind you, while talking to that crowd in New Jersey.
Silence of the Lambs. Has anyone ever seen The Silence of the Lambs? The late, great Hannibal Lecter. He's a wonderful man. He oftentimes would have a friend for dinner. Remember the last scene? Excuse me, I'm about to have a friend for dinner as this poor doctor walked by. I'm about to have a friend for dinner, but Hannibal Lecter. Congratulations, the late, great Hannibal Lecter.
Trump drew a big crowd there in New Jersey, but still a safely blue state.
What is the standard in journalism for reporting sarcasm as serious?
I know that you wrote a book, Dr. Hassan, called The Cult of Trump. Can you help us understand the cult of Donald Trump?
Yes, the cult of Donald Trump is best described as him, first of all, as the absolute leader who demands total obedience, who has a malignant narcissist personality, which is the stereotypical profile, by the way, of other cult leaders.
It's really bizarre, isn't it, when you think about how AWOL so many of these members of Congress have gotten. But I also think some of them are believing the garbage that they are being fed 24/7 on the internet by their constituents, and they bought into this big lie. And the question is, how are we going to really almost deprogram these people who have signed up for the cult of Trump?
And here's another sign that this stain on our history will be part of the election process. Many Republicans across the country are preparing for the upcoming midterm elections by focusing on the last election, the lie. The Washington Post reports that hundreds of GOP candidates are endorsing as central messaging for their campaigns that former President Trump really won the presidential election.
Topping our politics lead, new details about one of the bit players in Trump's big lie. The Trump White House, of course, had plenty of well-known deputies willing to peddle his baseless claims of election fraud.
Welcome back. A little twist on Data Download this week. We're going to take a look into the anatomy of the big lie, how it began and how it spread, and how, frankly, it has led to this sad fact that just 22%, 1 in 5 Republicans, say Joe Biden was elected legitimate.
The last thing before we go tonight, the big, big lie.
Trump has been resorting to some wild lies about my record, and some of what he and his running mate are saying, well, it's just plain weird.
And 3 days ago, the nation found out what we've all known in Minnesota. These guys are just weird. That's who they are.
Every day, Vance, it comes out, Vance has done something more extreme, more weird, more erratic.
One of those things, of course, is pointing out the differences between these two candidates. I mean, on the other side, they're just weird. I mean, they really are.
There is a temptation to have our message be entirely about Donald Trump because we're so disturbed by what his return would mean. Right. And maybe a little more also about J.D. Vance because of how odd he's turned out to be.
You ever see this guy? Like when he's on stage, he like kind of meanders over, can't really walk well, and he goes over to the flag and he like hugs the flag. I mean, I love the flag, but it's a weird thing he does.
Because I think he's a very dangerous man.
I know the danger he presents to our democracy.
Donald Trump tried to steal our democracy, and he's still trying to do it. For those who do not understand the ramifications of all this, let me paint a picture of what could happen next.
I think you have to take Trump seriously because he poses the gravest threat to democracy that we've ever seen.
President Trump.
A real danger to our democracy, a person who can't become president again.
Federal agents have released more information about what Thomas Matthew Crooks did in the hours leading up to the shooting. Witnesses told police they saw a ladder leading up to the roof of the building where Crooks opened fire. Now reports have emerged that he purchased the ladder the day of the shooting at a Home Depot. Authorities also revealed he practiced firing at a local gun range, but we still don't know what motivated him to try to assassinate the former president.
And joining us now is Carol Leonnig, Washington Post national reporter. Carol, it's always great seeing you. Hey, Carol, based on your reporting, how often is it that a presidential assassin doesn't have clear political motive?
The phrase false claim is composed of two words, false and claim. False refers to something that is not true or incorrect. A claim, on the other hand, is a statement or assertion that someone makes, often without providing evidence. So, a false claim is a statement that someone makes which is not true. It implies that the person making the claim is either mistaken or deliberately being untruthful.
It turns out it was the fear-mongering of the globalist establishment media that was the real threat to democracy in America, and the real danger to the free world. While they acted like Trump was intolerable, they totally ignored their own fascist techniques that they excused more and more because of the new urgency to protect their dominance of the American political system. For instance, as previously mentioned, using the term false claim, which is a contradictory term in use in journalism unless part of an opinion piece, is unacceptable journalistic standards. Technically, every use of the term false claim ought to have warranted a fine, and every use of it going back to the beginning of Trump's first presidential campaign should be held to account. The only possible reason to use the term false claim would be to make it appear to the viewer that a judgment on the issue was already made. Yet in the case of liberal media, the standard holder is always themselves and their own experts and judges. Yet in regards to the 2020 election, there never was any official investigation. The Democrats simply had 50 of their own supporters state they agreed with the outcome and demanded the world accept what they claimed. In truth, if you examine every case of disputed electoral results, that Democrats claim was part of a big conspiracy, there were legitimate disputes over the statutes in effect at the time. If the rules had been upheld as they should have been, instead of being changed at the last minute, or not changed when they should have been, the disputed state elections would have been called when in Trump's favor. The Democrats hatched the conspiracy to use the media to portray the opposite, then repeated that any dispute was a big lie as often as they could afterwards to seal the deal. With the Democrat voter mobs ransacking many cities across America, the judges remained paralyzed while the actual tyrants seized power. It was made quite clear that those mobs would not dissipate until the Democrats had safely entrenched themselves in power. The question now is, how will they continue to conceal their dictatorship now that the scrutiny of another election approaches, something that was much easier for them, when they controlled both parties? Hence why old neocon globalist establishment leaders like Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney openly lend their support to the Democratic Party, the last party remaining under their control.
This Springfield neighbor didn't want to give us her name, but says she doesn't buy the story about the geese and the cats.
It's ridiculous and it's a lie.
Why do you think it's a lie?
Because of who's saying it. Goodbye.